So this video is going to be a little bit more, I think, than just episode 13 of the 100 book challenge. There's a lot to unpack on this one. This is a big one. Finished on June 11th. I'm doing this video a little bit late. Been crazy stuff going on. It doesn't matter. The Urth of the New Sun by Wolfe, bringing an end to my first read. Where have I been with this book? Why have I not read the series 40 years ago? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I finished it now. The Book of the New Sun by Wolfe. This is a 5-book series, no matter what anyone else might try to tell you, right? It was apparently started as, it was going to be one book that was split into 2, which was then collected here. The first 2 were The Shadow of the Torturer and The Claw of the Conciliator, collected in this Tor Essentials edition that I read. And then he was going to write another one that was going to be to make it a trilogy, and then which then turned into 2 books, The Sword of the Lictor and Citadel of the Autarch, which are collected here in Sword and Citadel. Read those over the course of a very long time. Just read them slowly. We'll get into that. And then a 5th book that came later, some people called it, or tried to dismiss it as sort of a contractual obligation book or something like that. I can't imagine reading the series without this. This is an essential end. So, again, no matter what anybody else tries, I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinions, I guess, yeah. But the Urth of the New Sun, number 13 in my 100-book challenge, is a non-optional part of the series. This is a single story spread over 5 books. Yeah. In this one, oh man, this is one of those, where have I been? Why have I not read this book yet? The series yet. This which just hits every single point for me. This is pure, absolute love. As just a fan and a reader of science fiction, fantasy, and horror in particular, I kind of exist on the ends of the spectrum. And what I mean by that is that I absolutely love the pulpiest action adventure, space opera, sword and sorcery stuff. Right? Like crazy, weird, extreme horror. If it's super fun and just a gas, then I'm 100% in. On the other side, right, go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, where I'm looking for the literary experimenters, those authors who say, well, this is really interesting, this whole thing about spaceships or monsters or whatever, and I'm just going to blow that into smithereens and create something spectacularly different. My favorite author of all time is Harlan Ellison. Is my second favorite author of all time Edgar Rice Burroughs. So you start to see that, like, fun adventure story action over here. Love it. And just show me the edge case of these genres. And then, the middle ground is kind of like, okay, right? But what are you really trying to do? Are we going to have a lot of fun with this? Or are we going to go where no one has gone before? This one goes where no one has gone before, the whole series. For me, it was just endlessly fascinating. And what made it fascinating is what I have heard over the years as a complaint, right? that it feels impenetrable. He doesn't explain anything. And Gene Wolfe does not explain anything in these books. We're just dumped into the story. It is all written in a very tight first person from the point of view of who begins as an apprentice torturer, Severian, and who tells us right away that he's writing this in the future. This is him writing his memoir. And he somehow has gained the throne. This is like immediately. The rest of this video will be completely spoiler free. Right? That's not even a spoiler. That's like paragraph 1. What Gene Wolfe does is he just puts us into Severian's head and leaves us there. And Severian has an understanding of the world around him most of the time. Some of the time. And he knows, he remembers what he did, where he was, who he talked to, etc. Or does he? And we're just along for that ride. And throughout the entire 5-book series, and it's a lot of words, these are, decent sized books, it's just question after question after question after question. Is every character a human? Are some of them androids or aliens or mutants or clones? Or in this world, in this story, consciousness itself seems to be mutable or unstable, even incomprehensible. Time also is unstable, subject to manipulation by alien intelligences, at least, I think, right? And unknowable technologies. Nothing but, right? So it feels very much, because Severian feels very much unstuck in time. It's clearly set some far distant point in the future. People are saying, it could be only 10,000 years. It might be 1,000,000 years. It doesn't feel like it's like billions of years, even though the whole story is about the sun is dying. Anything more about that would be a spoiler as well. I mean, basically everything that you say that might be specific to this is a spoiler, and that's what's so great about it. Nothing in this book, no matter whether or not we're not sure who's human, who's alive, who's dead, who's been dead, who's come back to life, all of this stuff. Is it the future? Is it the past? Is it both? Is it all of it? Nothing in this entire 5-book series ever felt random. And that's, to me, the genius of it. This isn't David Lynch just kind of making it up as he goes along. And David Lynch has talked about making a lot of his movies up as he went along. This is Severian living in his very specific world. And if, as a reader, I don't understand exactly what's happening, or exactly what he means when he says something or describes something, or assumes we understand what he's talking about, that's to be expected, right? We don't have a clear answer to the question, right? How far in the future is this? Because I think it's so far in the future that Severian and all of the people he encounters don't have any recollection of us. He's not talking to us in the 20th century, the late 20th century when it was written, or now in the early 21st century. We're just forgotten people. In the same way that when Gene Wolfe wrote this, he wasn't thinking, well, I hope that people in, like 3rd century BC Egypt will get this. Right? He has actually taken us to this time period. And do we get it? Right? Anyway, I think, to me, it's clear that this is so far in the future that this famous quote has become true. We aren't told, oh, show, don't tell, right? This book is the triumph of show over tell, right? It just starts, it keeps going, and then it ends. And if you didn't get it, that's on you. Right? And in fact, you're kind of not, I think, in a way, not supposed to get it in detail, because he doesn't come out and say, this is what I mean by that. This is exactly what this animal is. This is exactly what time, what year it is. This is exactly where on Earth we are. All that stuff. There's not anything in here resembling an info dump, which is fantastic. We're just left to feel the life in this world. We're not given an explanation of the technology or lack thereof. We're just feeling what it's like to be Severian, doing what Severian is doing, why Severian is doing it. And we are along for that ride, right? But it's just not, I can't feel it as random. I don't see anything in here that felt like, oh, I guess we'll just kind of throw this in because it'll be fun. Everything seems massively significant, overwhelmingly significant, and everything loops back in and around everything else. Oh, it's just that. It is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, right? So yeah, what is the experience of reading this like, right? For me, it just continued to trigger my imagination as I was reading it. It really felt like Gene Wolfe just sort of entered into my psyche. you know, his books did, his writing did, the story did, his character did, and kind of pulled my imagination out so that we could both kind of play with it. And play with it together and in and around this masterpiece of a novel, of a giant 5-part novel. There have been a few books in the past that I've read that have left me kind of puzzling over the memories of the text, right? Where I couldn't necessarily just sit down right now, I wouldn't and I won't in this video, and just sort of tell you the story of the book of the new sun. He starts here and then he goes here and then he does this and this is why and then this is what he's trying to do and all that. Lock that down in some kind of beat sheet or anything ridiculous like that. I had a similar experience to that, right? That sort of it's less the memory of plot points and so on as it is a memory of the feeling of being in there. There are 2 books that right away came to mind as I was reading this and understanding that I'm doing something in my own head as I'm reading this. And that was 2 of my favorite books of all time, honestly, absolutely. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, a work of staggering genius. Maybe still my favorite novel of all time, House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. It's like there's a spell cast on you. And it's not about, oh, I really love this character and I hate that character. And all of the things that we really talk about when we talk about genre fiction in particular. This one just kind of reaches out of the pages at you, reaches out of the text at you, and sort of drags you in, and then also pushes itself into you in a way that is weirdly magical. It's at times kind of unsettling. But it activated that interior world in a way that is absolutely irresistible. Right? The Urth of the New Sun, book 5 in the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, a genius, a masterpiece, lucky 13 of the 100 book challenge. Wow.